Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in today. Welcome to another episode of the Mount Airy Business and Leadership Interview Series. I'm Donna Marie Needle, real estate agent with Northrop Realty, and I'm honored to be here today with Larry Hushour, the mayor of the town of Mount Airy. I have known Mayor Hushour for about 15 years or maybe longer, and he has always been a staunch advocate for Mount Airy, very involved in the community, through his volunteerism and many different areas as an elected official as well. Thank you, Mayor Hushour. We are delighted to have you here today and to pick your brain about the future of Mount Airy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to answering some questions.
Awesome. So we'll just go ahead and dive right in here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what was the pivotal moment that drew you into politics?
Well, Mary and I moved here with our kids back in 2000, pre 9/11. Showed up here. I worked for an airline, so I was able to fly out of BWI Airport. So that worked out good. That the Baltimore area was a good place to move to. I've always been a fan of history. I got a little bit of a railroading streak in me. So when we moved to Mount Airy, and I started learning the history of the B&O Railroad as it crossed over Pars Ridge, I became very interested in the history of the town. The other thing that really surprised me was I always heard trains, but I never drove across railroad tracks on Highway 27. So I was like, where in the heck are these trains coming from? And that got me more involved in the history. And I discovered that there was a tunnel that's under, basically up by McDonald's and the new Chick-fil-A. There's a tunnel that runs under the town, which is pretty neat. But it couldn't have always been that way. So I discovered there was an old railroad right-of-way that was abandoned. And it had been talked about as a possible hiking trail for years. And as I discovered more about that, I decided that, as a member of the Parks and Rec Board, which I joined in 2006, I decided that maybe we need to go out there and find where this old right-of-way was. And when I discovered that, had a handful of volunteers. And as we were able to get easements and property acquisitions, we just went back there and started hacking away at the weeds. The railway had been abandoned since the mid-70s. And we went out there and just started building a trail on it from Watkins Park to Main Street. So it's the history of the town that got me involved. And then my love of nature trails and history encouraged us to go out there and just keep building this trail. And as I kept building the trail, along with a bunch of volunteers, needs evolved, such as needing gravel, needing permits, needing some construction help. And that just got me further and further into Parks and Rec, eventually leading me to want to be involved in town government so I could kind of be involved in some of the decisions that were being made about having that hiking trail in town and the ability to move people back and forth from Watkins Park to Main Street on a trail, as opposed to coming downtown and trying to find a parking spot. That's what got me involved.
Okay, that's all right. Just, well, that's awesome because, everybody loves our rails to trails now. And of course, we, what do we do between Watkins Park and the rail yard? There's the run that the May run or whatever it's called that happens, that goes through that section. And also it's awesome because there's parking and people can park there and then walk the trail to come to downtown. So as we're always looking for parking. So that's an extra little plus.
And, it makes, I live on the Frederick County side. I'll drive to Watkins Park and then come into the farmer's market on Wednesdays and shop the farmer's market and then walk back to Watkins Park and come home. So it's just a neat walk through history. And as you said, a lot of 5Ks are running through it. We're currently putting up a boardwalk on part of it because
Yeah,
as we went through this, part of it is considered stormwater management. So we actually have to boardwalk it. So the volume underneath the boardwalk is considered a stormwater management area.
Really interesting. Yeah, you get your steps in by parking over there and then walking to the right? It's a good way to get your steps in.
It'll do it.
Okay. So I know you were recently just elected mayor, but before we talk about the mayoral role, what roles did you previously, I know you said you were on the Parks and Recs board, were you on any other commissions, and then also tell us about how you were then elected as a town council. So how did those roles influence you in wanting to become mayor?
Yeah, I really got my feet wet about 2005 by joining the Recycling and Sanitation Commission. And that's what kind of showed me that there was a structure of town government that included, a mayor, a council, and several commissions, and occasionally task forces. And then, of course, spread throughout the town are nonprofits that do wonderful things for our town. But I kind of cut my teeth in recycling and sanitation, and then moved on to the Parks and Rec Board, and that really elevated the game. In 2016, I decided that, actually it was 2017 was the election, but decided that I would run for a council spot. That was around the time that we were bringing that caboose into town, which is something that kind of got thrown at me from the previous mayor, who said, Larry, can you figure out how to get this caboose into town? and again, it takes a village, takes a lot of volunteers. So a lot of people help, but we figured out how to get that caboose into town. But that led me down a path of having to get, bond bills, grants, work through nonprofits, work with volunteers. We have wonderful businesses in town that provided gratis labor to help clear out where the caboose currently sits and to do various things. It was a challenging project, but that's what, allowed me to get enough of a base that I decided to go ahead and run for town council. So I spent 4 years on the council, 2 years as a councilman, learning that process, and then 2 years as a council president. And I would tell you, council president, once you're in that, you definitely have to elevate your game, because every council meeting is dependent on the council president being able to put the agenda together, run the meetings, make sure everything is understood. There's no slacking off as council president. And then, of course, I ran for mayor back in May. Lost that one, but came back when unfortunately we had to have a special election to replace Mayor Rockenberg. So I ran in November, and here I am.
Okay. So over the years, what has surprised you most while working as a volunteer, a councilman, and now, well, I know it's only been a short period of time, and now the mayor? Mm-hmm.
Well, I can tell you this, and from the time I started on that trail and through today, and I'm sitting here with you, Donna Marie, as where you serve on a town commission as the chairman of the Economic Development Commission. The volunteers, the willingness of people to step up and volunteer is definitely what I call it surprising. I might, but I would also tell you it's inspirational. The people that are willing to step up, join the commissions, do good things for the town. The people that are willing to figure out how to build a bike trail, how to bring in a caboose, how to build a trail, how to get a basketball court over on, in the Twin Arch area. Mm-hmm. I mean, volunteers show up and they come in and get things done. And that's been, like I said, is it surprising? I'm not sure. It's inspirational, though, to know that there's so many people who just step up and come out and and get things done for the town. So that's been a highlight.
Yeah, we do definitely have an amazing town that always shows up for everything. They show up for the bad things, they show up for the good things, and they just keep coming, right?
Yes.
They just keep coming.
Yeah. And when one, kind of gets to that point where they're just like, oh, I need a break, it's like somebody else. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So tell me, as a mayor, what are your goals for Mount Airy, and how do you envision Mount Airy looking in a year from now, 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now?
Yeah. We went several years, I would even say over a decade, with hardly any growth in town. I mean, projects were out there and the pots were simmering and things were cooking, but nothing seemed to make it to the table in terms of development and growth. I'm not a big advocate for growth and development, but it's going to happen. There's things that that we put off to the point that now they're starting to bubble over, and we have to acknowledge that these things are coming. And I would tell you, as an elected official, we look out for the people of the town, but we also look out for the owners of the properties. We look out for our businesses, and we look out for our nonprofits, and we try to make sure that everything is fair. We have a zoning map, and that zoning map has several classifications in different areas. And we've gotten to the point where some of these development projects have to go through. My goal as the mayor is to make sure that growth does not take over this town, that we don't grow to the point that we end up inadvertently, for example, killing our main street. Our main street is a historic, it's almost like a walking museum in Mount Airy. When I walk down Main Street, you really get the feeling that, you're seeing something that people were seeing in the 1960s and maybe even earlier. It's, it's a wonderful walk through, historic downtown Mount Airy. My fear and my concern about growth is to make sure that we don't do so much growth out on Highway 27 that in effect we take away from the Americana that is our main street. So I want to make sure that growth that happens around town is something that amplifies our historic main street, that enhances it, that draws people in. So when they exit off of I-70 and they're driving down Highway 27 and they see a sign that says Historic Mount Airy, they come down to our historic Main Street and they visit the shops and the restaurants that are down here on Main Street, and we keep it as vibrant as we can. I want to protect the feel of Mount Airy that I and my family have personally enjoyed for 21 years, and older citizens in town have enjoyed for a lifetime.
Got it. Yeah, I understand your concern about growth. If too much happens out on the outskirts, that's going to impact who comes downtown. What do you see now? We have the vision plan, of course, that the town council adopted. I believe it was 2019. How do you feel about that vision plan? And how it focuses on the downtown?
Yeah, the vision plan was a worthwhile product, and I support most of it. There's some little things in there that I would zig to the left or the right on, but overall, I like the concept of it. I like the the fact that I do support Center Street going through, and my main thing is that as all of this Center Street corridor evolves, I want to make sure that there's signage and that there's a feel that if somebody turns, left or to the west on Center Street, that it entices them to come downtown. In other words, it should be something that feels that draws you in and keeps some of the architectural features of our downtown area, so that as somebody's heading down Center Street, they look beyond and they say, "Holy cow! There's old historic downtown there. Let's keep driving." And they come down here and visit Main Street and get a cup of coffee, or visit one of the restaurants, or go into one of the shops. That's my main goal with the downtown vision plan, is to make sure that it's implemented in a way that entices people downtown, as well as using all the new shops and services that'll be available on the Center Street corridor.
Yeah, I mean, as the chair of EDC, I definitely feel that is my vision for it too. I mean, you want Center Street to be the vehicle, or the way that we get more people downtown, because it's another way to get there and to bring more traffic downtown, and to have our downtown prosper, for sure. Mm-hmm. Because I think that we just don't get enough traffic, because there's only really one way in from the north or from the south, depending on where you're coming from. And that's probably a lot of the concern of people, is that we just don't have enough traffic coming in. So I think Center Street is the key.
I mean, certainly, I think that the way that we had the downtown vision plan set up, it'll enhance that. But it goes back to the Rails to Trails project too, and the ability to get people into town on foot as well. And we'll be working on the west side of Main Street on Rails to Trails to try to help the residents that are in Village Gate and Twin Ridge be able to access Main Street on a bike or on foot as well. I think it's the ability to get people downtown is vehicle related, but it's also pedestrian related. So
absolutely, I agree with that. And so this kind of ties into the being able to do the marketing with the vision plan, so that that signage that you were talking about, that you can have people know, well, or come on down, keep driving. There's a whole nother section down here that you might be missing. And that's also to be able to promote, shopping local. Mm-hmm. How do you see that tying in all together?
I do. I think there's different vehicles to get the word out, one of which is what you're doing right now. Unfortunately, we did lose the messenger, and we do have a large, significant senior community in town, and they were very reliant on the messenger. So being able to replace a paper product would be wonderful, and I hope that somebody steps up. We do have people who are in businesses that are working toward that. For example, SK Printing is coming out with their 4-county catch, which is kind of a hybrid between advertising and newsworthy stories. That'll get something in the hands of our senior communities that they can kind of at least get a recap of things that are happening with the town council and the town events and everything. So we're trying to get that, but having some sort of a printed advertising, as well as things online to advertise and promote the downtown events and the downtown shops and restaurants. We're just going to have to tackle it hard, because we're kind of in a tough time with the loss of the messenger. So we're doing everything we can from the town government standpoint without jumping into the newspaper business, because you never want your town government being in charge of the newspapers. That's not a good way to go. So my hope is that a news source, a full news source, will come along, or perhaps the 4-county catch will start presenting more newsworthy articles, and maybe it'll be a viable method of getting the news out there. So whatever we can do to promote the downtown businesses and restaurants I wanted to happen. So.
Yeah, for sure. Especially the seniors, you know, we worry about that because they're not technologically savvy most of the time. And so to even come to this website, you know, might be something that they will do. I'm not going to say every senior is not technologically savvy, because some of them are, but just they like the newspaper, you know, they like that feeling of the weekly newspaper being delivered, well, in the Messenger's case, every 2 weeks. But, you know, we lost the Gazette however many years ago, and now we lost the Messenger. So now we got nothing. But
I hate to confess it, but even at 57, I like to have the newspaper in my hand.
Yeah. Some people just are avid readers of a newspaper, and unfortunately, some of these newspapers are starting to disappear. So you do have to be cognizant of ways that we can get news to certain sectors of the community, for sure. So my next question is about COVID. I know it's been, you know, just a thorn in our sides for the past 2 years. And so as we start to see that some lifting of mask mandates in different states and different areas, and, you know, people going back to work, what is the state of our staff with our town in terms of working? Are they in the office? Are they still working remotely, or what is the status?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, of course, COVID, like other things that have happened throughout time, you know, has kind of changed the world. And what we learned out of COVID is that there are possibilities of working from home very effectively. And so we certainly went through some of those periods. So now when somebody needs time off, we know that, you know, just because they're taking the day off doesn't mean that that they can't work from home. So it actually gives us the option of being able to have somebody who's got a, you know, if their child calls in or is sick and has to stay home from school, we can have an employee, a staff member, can work from home very effectively. In terms specific to COVID, you know, we had that little spike of the Omicron variant, and it even tackled me early January.
Me too. Uh-huh.
You too. So it seemed to hit, you know, it hit like wildfire, not just in Town Hall, but in all of Mount Airy. And so, you know, it's not that we went all the way back to restrictions and everything, but we did, you know, for example, last night at the council meeting, we let 15 people in. We kind of spaced the chairs apart, and most of us up at the table, you know, wore our masks unless we were talking, and we still had the plexiglass in between us. You know, so we're taking the precautions. My hope is that, you know, as we enter March, we're going to be back up and running to the point that, you know, what I'd like to do is offer for the commissions to, you know, they can have a choice. They can either show up in person or they can Zoom their meetings in March. And the ones that get a little bit tricky are ones that have public hearings, because it's, you know, I feel like doing public hearings on Zoom, although we did it a couple of times during the height of COVID, that's where it gets really tough, because you want people to be able to come in, speak at the microphone, hear every word, see the inflections, look across the room, and get a, you know, a true sense of a public hearing. So I think we're headed back for that. I think March is definitely going to be a turning point for us. We currently, you know, the front door is unlocked. We're open for business, and, you know, I think everybody's here today. There might be one person who's out, but it's not because of COVID. And, you know, Town Hall is up and running, and I think it'll stay that way. I think we're through, knock on wood, the worst of it.
Okay, good. We've actually been running our meetings in person. We did in January. We're going to in February. So at least for my commission, I don't know about all the other commissions.
Yeah, some others really took to Zoom and feel like it's effective. For example, Parks and Rec. They feel like they get more participation when they Zoom their meetings than they do when they're in person. So,
yeah. Yeah. And that makes a difference too. Sometimes we want everybody to be present if you can, as much as possible. So,
sure.
Okay. So, what is something most people don't know about you, Larry Mayer?
When you campaign, it's kind of like everybody knows everything about you and your spouse and your children and everything.
Right.
But I think that, it's probably, if there was something out there that most people may not realize is that, I have an extensive Navy background. Mm-hmm. My first 20 years, after graduating from the Naval Academy was spent, learning how to be a naval aviator and flying the airplane called the E-2 Hawkeye, which is a radar surveillance airplane that flew off of the carrier. And I caught the tail end of the Gulf War, mainly flew around the Persian Gulf looking at oil fires and trying to avoid Iranian airspace. I've always said it's good to be young and stupid because as you get older, you're like, that stuff was dangerous. but we, as a young naval officer, it was exciting to be over there and participate in, whatever I had to make sure that we enjoy the freedoms that we have.
Very much so.
The second half of my Navy career was spent chasing drug runners. And so I was down in Central America watching drug runners coming out of Colombia or wherever they came out of, and we would chase them with our airplane and keep the radar on them. And then other units would go out there and actually do the identifying of the airplane. So we would vector some different Air National Guard airplanes or Air Force Reserve airplanes in to actually identify those drug smugglers and see where they were going, watch them make the drop, and we would be arranging for either a foreign country or sometimes they would fly all the way up to the US, and we would just make sure that that once the drugs hit the ground that we were able to get law enforcement out there and make sure that people got arrested and the drugs got seized and all that. So it was, it was pretty interesting doing the whole drug search game. And, occasionally we'd end up where we were chasing a drug runner and we didn't have an asset. So we would drop down and join up on the wing of somebody who was flying usually cocaine to the north. And sometimes we get close enough that you could kind of look in the cockpit and they'd be sitting over there looking at you. And, but we weren't going to shoot them down or anything. We didn't even, the E-2 didn't have weapons, and even the other airplanes were just out there identifying them and seeing where they were going. But it was, it made for an interesting second half of my career. So
very exciting, actually, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. It's sometimes we succeeded, but I'll tell you what, the drug runners had a lot of intelligence too on us. So they would launch out decoys and we'd go chase the decoys. And while we were chasing the decoys, they'd be running the drugs up the other side of the Caribbean.
So they got smart.
It was interesting stuff.
Yeah. My husband would like to hear about those kinds of stories. He'd be very much into that. So, and last but not least, do you have any advice to give to aspiring leaders and people who want to get involved in our town and kind of follow in your footsteps?
My advice would be, join a commission, kind of get familiar with the government, town government. Find something that you're passionate about. It may be, as in your case, Donna Marie, the local businesses and economic development. In my case, it was, a love of history and trails. And then there's people who jumped on just recently on the water and sewer commission because they were very interested in, and I can't pronounce it, but it's PFAS, PFAS, polyfluoro something. I mean, that's what they're really concerned about. So they got on water and sewer. That's their passion. So, find something that interests you and get involved in town government and kind of stick your toes in the water and see if it's something you're further interested in. And then consider, running for council. You certainly don't have to, be a councilman to become the mayor, but it certainly it's another way to get in a little bit deeper, maybe knee deep. I would tell you that as council president or as mayor, you have jumped in the deep end of the pool and you better swim because you will drown if you don't swim. And once you're in there, you're in. And you're not going to make everybody happy, but you can do good things for your town. So you focus on the big things and try to make sure that, that you're taking care of that, and just accept the fact that, not everybody's going to be happy all the time. You just, try to do your best, and, you were elected for a reason. So, get out there and just do your best. So my advice to anybody is, is incrementally stick your feet in the water, but once you make that jump, you better be ready to swim.
It's serious for sure. Well, yeah, you have done a great job, in all of your roles, and even as as mayor so far. And I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today here and giving us a little glimpse into the life and times of the mayor. And thank you for sharing your goals and your vision for Mount Airy. And is there any, would you like to go ahead and tell people how they can get in contact with you, what the best way is?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can contact me through email, Mayor Hushour at Mount, M-O-U-N-T, Airy, MD.gov. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me, or you can call Town Hall and they'll get you either my personal number or my mayor's cell phone number. But Town Hall is 301-829-1424, and you can call them and they'll find me wherever I am. I do still fly, and so I'm gone about 2 or 3 days a week. But when I'm on the road, I'm still available. I still answer emails and phone calls and do Zoom meetings. So by all means, feel free to reach out to me with your questions or ideas. Thank you.
Awesome. And that will conclude our interview for today with Mayor Hushour. You can, if you know anyone who wants to be featured as a business or a leader in our community, you can reach out to me again at Donna Marie Needle. I'm a real estate agent for Northrop Realty, 301-466-3086, or Donna Marie Needle at northroprealty.com. That's all for now. Thanks again. Until next time.
Thank you.